This is Pete Moore on Halo Talks NYC. I have the pleasure of bringing a longtime distinguished marathoner, a very adept CPA, and a grandfather who lets his grandkids use all of his awards and medals. Coming to you live from Dallas, Texas, Tony Reed. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. It's great being here.
Awesome. Well, as we talked earlier, you and I are on a parallel path mission to get people moving, get people running, try to make sure that we don't get them into the pharmaceutical industry, which they'll never get out of, and take a little bit more control and responsibility for themselves. So, maybe harking back to how you started running back in the 70s, and how this kind of became something that you're like, look, I got to take control. I got to do this.
Yes. Well, I was about 7 or 8 years old when they found out that I was pre-diabetic. And the doctor said that I would probably go on insulin by the time I was a teenager.
Crazy.
So every year I was having to go to the Juvenile Diabetes Association to get tested to determine whether or not I would go on insulin. I went to a high school where it was mandatory, not optional, but mandatory. Every student had to participate in a sport 2 out of the 3 seasons, and that third season they had to take PE. So I ended up going to high school, got involved in sports, lost weight, did not have to go on insulin. But we really didn't understand why. Then in college, again, it was mandatory that you take PE. And there I read the book called Aerobics by Dr. Kenneth Cooper.
Sure.
And then later he wrote the book New Aerobics. And in New Aerobics, there was one paragraph that said diabetics who are dependent on insulin could either decrease their intake or go completely off of it if they maintain a fitness program. So in 1976, I set a lifetime goal of averaging what I would say running, walking, or crawling 3 miles a day. I've kept a handwritten running journal since 1979.
Wow.
And as of this year, I've run over 51,000 miles. Average exactly 3.07 miles a day. I'll be 70 this year, and I'm still not on insulin.
Amazing. Congratulations. I had a story that I got to interject here because I probably was in that same code of potentially having diabetes. Wasn't a kid, but I wasn't tested for it. But I'll tell you what happened, and then you tell me if I was probably at risk. So I grew up in Long Island, and about 30 minutes outside New York, and it was a suburban area. So the ice cream man would have that jingle and come around up my block, every 5 or 6 days a week. And my dad ran a company. He always had a lot of change, like quarters and dimes and nickels. I don't know why, but he'd always empty out his pockets, the next when he came home. And there was this nice little like bin of like quarters. And it was like a blue thing. Maybe my grandmother made it. It was like embroidered. And I'm like, hey, can I just, take out of there if I need something? He's like, yeah, sure, I don't care. So the ice cream man would come. I would literally take my left hand. I'd grab as much as I could in quarters. And when the ice cream man came, I would buy Fun Dip, which is basically like sugar in a little pouch, right, with the applicator. Then I would buy Big League Chew grape, which is basically like all sugar with gum. And then I would buy candy cigarettes, and I would take them all, and I'd put them under my radiator. And then when my mom says, okay, you got to go to sleep, I'd basically eat all that stuff for like 30 minutes before I slept. So I was on a huge sugar rush at like 10, 11, 12. And the result of that was I got chubby. And I had to shop. I don't know if you had this where you grew up in St. Louis, but there was Sears, SEARS.
Right.
And they had, this was before like mental health awareness, Tony. They had a section of the kids section called the Husky department, Husky. And I had to go there and get elastic corduroy jeans. Okay. And it was the most demoralizing thing that you could do when you got elastic jeans is 10, 11, 12. So I became a goalie in soccer because I didn't want to run because I was eating too much sugar at night. And somehow I didn't get diabetes and I leaned out. Now I was actually a good athlete, but you can either get diabetes genetically or you can actually like force feed it to yourself, which might've been what I did.
Yes. Well, when I was in high school, I worked every weekend at a barbecue restaurant, and there was a cook whose name was Bill. And Bill wore a patch over one of his eyes. And it turns out he had to wear that patch due to glaucoma. So he had lost sight in that eye due to glaucoma. And over about a 6-year period, he had his toes amputated, his leg amputated, and ultimately lost his life, all due to complications associated with diabetes.
Jesus.
And I don't even think he was probably in his mid to late 40s.
Wow.
And I decided, that I wanted to, live long enough to see my grandkids, maybe to walk my daughter down the aisle when she got married, and really just to do all these things that I couldn't do them if I was dead.
Yeah. Amazing. So when did you actually say, like, there's some people say, hey, I'm part of a movement. I want to help other people that are doing this. And there's some people like you, me, and, the type Aers that say, I'm not just going to like get involved. Like, I'm actually going to create an entity. I'm actually going to drive this thing. It's going to be a legal thing. I'm going to like devote a certain amount of time. Obviously you're doing marathons, which is a significant amount of time allocation. You also have a day job. You're a CPA, which isn't like, back in the day, like people don't remember, like there was no Excel. There was no like online QuickBooks. Like you had to do this stuff like on a general ledger, right?
Yes.
And like big lengthy pieces of paper. No one appreciates what it used to be to actually get work done, as far as I'm concerned. So being a CPA back in the day, by the way, was not moving files around Microsoft Outlook for the listeners here. It was actually very detailed, ledger work, probably pen and paper. At some point, maybe moved up. So what was the inertia to say, was it the cook, or was it like, hey, I just got to set up an association to like formalize this?
Well, I was in 2001. I was speaking at a data processing conference up in Chicago. And while I was there, I mentioned that I had a goal of running 50 marathons before I turned 50 years old. And I had run by then something like 47 marathons. And I really wasn't thinking anything of it because I was just out there running the marathons by myself, at least going to races by myself. And a group of African Americans pulled me aside after I got off the stage, and they said, "We've never met anyone who has ever run that many marathons."
Uh-huh.
And so they said, when you get ready to run your 50th, let us know. And in talking with all of them had somewhat similar stories as far as having family members who had diabetes, people suffering from high blood pressure, hypertension, as I like to call it, all of the diseases of inactivity.
Yep.
So when I got ready to run my 50th marathon, they came and joined me, and we started talking about possibly starting an organization that would focus on African Americans to get us up and moving. And what I ended up doing was putting together kind of a three-part program, if you want to call it that, focus on education, training, and sustainability.
Okay.
So the education side of it focuses on dispelling the myths about African Americans as distance runners. Because for a lot of us, when we were in school, as soon as you said you wanted to run a mile, people say, well, African Americans are sprinters, not distance runners. And
really?
So we were
even with like back in the day when you had like the New York Marathon or the Boston Marathon, it would, like some of the guys that are winning now, like they weren't coming to the U.S. to do that, right? Or the Olympics?
Right.
How did it work?
Well, the guys that were winning the marathons were coming over from Africa.
Yeah.
So
they were doing long distance.
Right. So when you look at African Americans, we were all focused on, or at least coaches were focusing us on running the sprints.
Yeah, I got you. Okay.
And if you were a distance runner, they would just go to the track, run a few laps around, and that was your workout. Gotcha.
Okay.
So there's this huge myth that African Americans are sprinters and not distance runners.
Okay.
And of course, there were also things about women running, as far as the uteruses were going to drop out and all these different things. And how running is bad for your knees, it's bad for your hips. So the education side of our program focused on dispelling all those myths. Today, we actually have 2 documentaries.
Oh, really?
Yes, and I actually wrote and directed both of them. One of them is called...
Just in your spare time?
Yes.
I love it.
So one of the documentaries is called Breaking 3 Hours, Trailblazing African American Women Marathoners. And that documentary came out in 2022. In 2023, Runner's World magazine listed it as one of the most motivational and inspirational running documentaries of all time.
Amazing. Where can people get that?
That's available on just about all the different streaming services. It's out on YouTube,
Okay,
Prime Video.
great,
So yeah, that one is out there every place.
amazing.
The second one that just came out this year is called "We Are Distance Runners: Untold Stories of African American Athletes." So that one focused on six distance runners who ran distances everywhere from the half mile all the way up to running across literally to running from LA to New York, and talks about their stories of overcoming poverty, the naysayers, and just all the different obstacles that we have, including major illnesses.
A couple of questions for you related to what you're doing right now. Is you're trying to, encourage people to get moving, encourage people to, register into marathons, maybe create, communities or groups. What level? And the reason why I'm asking this question is like you could take this into so many different. You could go really deep on what you're doing, or you could say like, "Hey, there's like a directory. Here's all the events you could go to." There could be potential partnerships, as people listening to our call right now, with groups that have a reasonably sized African American population, either already inside of their health club membership base, or that they don't have, and they should actually have a relationship. Whether
Yes.
it's a Gold's Gym, whether it's an Equinox, whether it's a Barry's Boot Camp. What are some of the things, or is there anyone inside the company that's looking for bricks and mortar partnerships or marketing partners? Because I think that's where we can be helpful. And also, it's very hard for health club members to get above this 20% of the population, maybe 30% now belong to a health club chain. And maybe, having a connectivity with a group like yours kind of makes it easier because they have a goal that they're walking into.
Okay. Well, good. That actually gets into the second part of our program, and that's focuses on training. So one of the things that we've done is we've encouraged our members to get their coaching certifications either through the Road Runners Club of America or USA Track and Field.
Okay.
Then once they get their certifications, for example, they can partner with a health club. And within that health club, they can actually have a distance running club.
Hmm.
And they can always meet up there at the facilities to start their different training runs and kind of start off with what we call a couch to 5K training program.
Gotcha. And those programs are on your site, and then you can maybe like have them linked into a health club chain, or they could like take it and like reference the source.
Well, once a person gets their certified coaches training, for example, especially with the Road Runners Club of America, they work with them on putting together training programs for individuals who want to
Got it.
kind of start a running program because
Got
it's
it.
really different for everyone.
Got it. So, a standpoint of actually like setting up communities, I was on a rant the other day with one of our health club operators who had very high attrition rates. So they're losing like half their members a year. And I'm like, what's going on? He's like, some people like are leaving because they play pickleball. We don't have a pickleball court. Some people are leaving because our indoor cycling is not what it used to be, and allows people who want outdoor cycling anyway. They're just here to like do. And I'm like, if you think back to like college, there are all these like student led activity um,
Yes.
groups, right? None of those were like there was nobody from the school that like set up like, hey, I'm the runners club. The runners club is somebody who was like a senior, in college, and then people joined, and then they selected, and it was 100% student led. And what I've been trying to get these health club members to say is like, look, you don't have to have a pickleball court. Have like two people that are pickleball advocates and play every week, and just like say, hey, you want to play pickleball? We don't have pickleball. However, I got 4 workout recovery sessions a week, pre and post pickleball, that I'm going to make you better at pickleball. And then talk to
Yes.
Joe and Sally because they run the pickleball team, and give them
Yes.
shirts, right? So
Yes.
I feel like there's like a wide open lane, if you will, for you to say, okay, I'm going to take my association. I'm going to either find someone inside that club that's a runner and affiliate with you to say, hey, I'm head of I'm head of the runners club here, right? And the MBMA is we got an MBMA affiliate, or like what was it in like a ROTC, like in the Army, right? You got ROTC. They got a ROTC on campus type of thing. Hey, I've got our group is inside these health clubs, to be super interesting as I'm thinking aloud.
Yeah, well, with us, we actually don't have clubs in different cities around the country because we feel on a local basis they know what's best for their community. Now, what health clubs can do is once they get a running club started, the way they keep things going is they can pick, for example, a race just about once a quarter that
Right.
they want everyone to train towards, to train towards that particular race. So they may start off the first race maybe a 5K, a 10K, a half marathon, and then maybe even up to a marathon.
Got it. So,
Then what
yeah,
and
keep
then
going.
what they would do to get the people to come to the health club is one of the most important parts about distance running is strength training and stretching. So if the health club, they may not have a lot of treadmills, but people could again start and finish their runs there.
Yeah.
And on their off days, they could say, "Yeah, I need to go in. I need to work on my quads. I need to work on my calves. I need to build up my upper body strength."
Yep.
And that's where they could take advantage of all the facilities that are there at the health club.
Yeah, agree. So just to close out this idea, if there is a running club that is already inside of a health club that we get to through our relationships, they don't have a relationship with you and your association, what would your association provide to them that would optimize what they're currently doing?
Well, the thing that we can provide are role models,
Okay.
so that you can go and you can look at the individuals, for example, who have been inducted into our Hall of Fame. You have a lady there named Lisa Felder. So Lisa Felder at one point weighed over 230 pounds. She changed her exercise habits. She changed her eating habits, and she ended up losing all the weight. And Lisa Felder went on to run over 400 marathons and ultra marathons. So here
Wow,
you're looking
that's
at
amazing.
races that are over 50 miles.
That's
And
incredible.
so you can hold her up as a role model. You have, again, a lot of different people in there who come from a lot of different backgrounds.
Mhm.
That if anyone says that they have a problem in a particular area, we can find someone in our Hall of Fame who had the same problem and who overcame it and excelled
Got it.
at distance running.
Got it. And is that sortable database or like can you put in, is it like tagged, meta tagged or
Uh,
anything?
yeah, all they have to do is just go to our website, which is blackmarathoners.org. We have a drop down link for Hall of Fame, and you can see all the different individuals that have been inducted into the Hall of Fame as well as their background stories.
Awesome. Awesome. And with the association, are you a nonprofit like 501c3 and do you take donations in?
That's a very good question. We
Thank
are
you.
a nonprofit organization. It is free to join. So people can't use a lack of a membership. People can't use a membership fee as a reason not to join,
Right.
because our sole mission is to get people out there running and to get them active.
How many
So, and
people
we,
do you
we do
think you've
take
how many people do
donations.
you think you've affected or since you started?
Wow. We have over 16,000, for example, in our Facebook group.
Okay.
Uh, we have founders of other running organizations used to be members of our organization.
Got it.
And just kind of taking it that one step out, we have impacted well over 250,000 African Americans in this country.
Bravo, man. Hats off. That's awesome. I love hearing that. I think sometimes people want to build something really big and they forgot that you should start small and figure out what you're
Yes.
doing, how it resonates. And as an analogy, like somebody will start up like one health club and then they'll build 10, but they don't really know what they built yet. And they would come to us and say, like, with a CPA like yourself, be like, hey, I need to raise money. I want to build another 100. And I'll say, which one's the prototype? And they would say the 11th one. And I'm like, wrong answer, man. You got to come to me after you've lived in it, after you figured it out, after you tell me it works. And then,
Yes.
like, that experiment, can turn into something big and you need capital to fund the experiment. So it sounds like from your standpoint, you're like, hey, how can I affect people locally? And then let it like blossom and control it and figure out where it goes, down the highway, right? On a marathon. I'm running a marathon. You were never running a sprint with this, I guess is another way to say
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, and what we do is we provide a platform at our annual summits where we can get individuals from running clubs all around the country to congregate together and encourage them to share ideas and concepts about how to go about making their running clubs larger and how to go about better servicing their local communities.
When's the next summit?
The next summit, believe it or not, is this weekend coming up. It's going to be at the One City Marathon race weekend in Newport News, Virginia.
Oh, good for you.
And
Nice.
in fact, we're actually going to be screening both of the documentaries there, and it's free. And again, it's free for people to go and watch the documentaries.
So in closing here, if you had advice for your younger self, or if you had advice for, somebody who's coming out of undergrad or coming out of business school and they want to, have a career and they also want to help people, is there anything that you would say I should have done a little bit differently, or maybe like a couple of words of wisdom from a guy who's got already grandkids and thousands of awards behind him that's not a screen share tool?
I would say be very realistic. You're not going to be able to do everything at one time. So it's just a matter of pacing yourself. Think, as they say, think in terms of what's good for the long run.
I like that.
And also, resting is just as important as running.
Awesome. Man, I'm glad we met. I'm not sure how we met, but welcome to the Halo Sector officially. I'd love to be helpful to you guys as much as possible with getting into some of the more traditional bricks and mortar groups that have everything that you need, but don't really know that your association is out there, or that there are communities and pockets of people that they need to market to and they need to embrace. Because once you move into this lifestyle, it's not like you don't exit out, like you're in. You're in for the long term. So
this year is our 20-year anniversary. So we've been doing this for a long time.
That's great. And that's coming up this weekend, like in 2 days. Newport News.
Yes.
Okay. I won't get the podcast out before then, but have a great trip and journey, and we'll hit you up when we post this up and see how we can make some high level connections.
Okay, great. Awesome. It's been thank you for having me.
Yeah, and feel free to use the term halo if you don't like the word wellness. If you see wellness coming out, you can just take it back in, get a good nose breathe as you do on your marathon, and mile 22, be like, oh, I meant Halo Sector.
Okay.
All right, man. Awesome.